So, I've been having this problem recently, and I think the best way I can describe this problem is I don't know what kind of content to make. Better yet, to put it even more simply, I've been experiencing writer's block. And honestly, some days it genuinely feels as if some of my best videos are already behind me. I've put in a lot of effort into a lot of different videos that are some of my personal favorites. Some of those videos of yesteryear that made me feel like I might actually know what I'm doing include, but are not limited to, The Halloween Hangover, both parts 1 and 2. I always wanted to make a third one, though somehow it always escaped me. In between those, I also did The Holiday Hangover, which was an honorary spiritual sequel to the first Halloween Hangover. I also have the video essay that I titled, Am I Metal Enough?, which really was a deconstruction of metal elitism and going into my own personal experience why I find out that metal elitism, being a metal elitist myself, really is just small PP energy. As time moved on, I'd wind up trying out a whole bunch of different things. I wound up with a software where I was finally able to do the reaction style picture-in-picture type of videos. I had a lot of fun just playing around, seeing what I could do and how far I could really push my software. However, in the last few days, I have been doing what the witches and spiritualists might call shadow work. A lot of deep introspection and personal reflection recently. And that was when I realized that my teenage self would be very, very disappointed in me. Now, my teenage self would pride me today for all of the things that I've managed to accomplish, all of the trials and tribulations that I've overcome, but in spite of that, there are still things that I would nitpick myself about. I think that teenage me would look at me, notice and recognize all of these things, and then say, congratulations, but what the fuck happened to you? On one hand, you appear to have come so far, but in reality, you haven't really gone anywhere at all. When did you start giving a fuck what people would say about you? When did you start to replace and trade passion for complacency? And when did you start to think that believing that spirituality was the only thing that mattered? What happened to you? And although teenage me was rude, crude, brash, arrogant, off the walls, and off the rails, teenage me has a point. And yet, 30-year-old adult me understands, because I have experienced the bullshit that I've been through, the trauma that I've endured, and the problems that I have faced that have really beaten me down. And even though I was there and I experienced these things, that doesn't mean that teenage me doesn't have a point. I think part of the problem started a little bit before, but really culminated into when I came to YouTube. It was a little bit after I started uploading, because one day I stopped asking myself, what can I talk about on here? And started asking myself, what kind of content can I make? Which doesn't really seem like it's a huge flick of the wrist, doesn't really seem like it's a big change in tone and inflection, but it really does change the way and shape the view in which I was coming from. Instead of having fun and goofing off and treating this as a part-time show and tell, suddenly it became about making something. And I think it's because with that first video that I did that I became really, really, really proud of, which was the dedicated student of internet comment etiquette, where I told myself, yeah, I can do this. What can I create? What heights can I climb? What problems can I overcome? And how can I prove myself to myself? Now, for better or worse, I really do have this competitive nature with myself where I'm always trying to one-up myself and outdo myself, because something stuck in my head as a teenager. It's not about trying to be better than anybody else. It's about trying to be better than who you were yesterday. And somehow that got confused in a way where every day needs to be better than the day before. And that really is the burning, toxic cycle that I started abusing myself with. Now, before this gets too serious and gets incredibly far too dark, more so than I had anticipated, I really just wanted to point out that I have recognized since then at least a small part of this pattern, this cycle that I have been putting myself through, where I think every video, every piece of content, every part of media that I put out there somehow needs to be better than the last thing. And really, genuinely, I think that is the most toxic thing that I have genuinely done to myself. Now, if you have been following me for a while, either here or on TikTok, it's nothing new that I struggle with my own sense of identity. I struggle with my personality sense. I struggle with my gender identity. I struggle with every single aspect of me, trying to figure out who I am, and this is nothing new. Now, in this process of trying to figure out who I am, who I want to be, and where I want to go, I seem to have overlooked a lot of really good gold nuggets, some little gems, diamonds in the rough, if you will, where I have just kind of forgotten to incorporate those things of who I was into who I am. Now, going back to my teenage self, when I was a teenager, I actually had a lot of different things that I was interested in. My love for comic books evolved into a love for manga and anime, and later would become an interest in mythology. Once upon a time, I was very interested and invested in the music scene, music culture in general, and just the entire alternative subgenre of life. And all of that passion was very much categorized by my intense and passionate, enthusiastic love for rock and roll, heavy metal, and all of the other things that metal elitists the world over will argue and say that's not real metal. And right dead center, in the midst of all of it, I myself played guitar. When was the last time I played guitar? And at the very least, when was the last time I played guitar and really got into it? Now, as most of my followers may be aware, since a lot of my followers actually come from my TikTok account, I've sort of made a name for myself, not in any genuinely recognizable way that's going to be a claim to fame or infamy, but I have become known for being that person who talks about witchy stuff, paganism, different myths and interpretations of the myths, so on and so forth. But everything that is seen there in regards to witchy and pagan stuff started off as a deep and passionate enthusiasm for ghosts, ghost stories, and paranormal phenomenon. And over here, it has been reflected in some of my videos, such as the Coffee Table Internet Adventures and the Ouija board video, which I believe was Jaquel's Internet Adventure, which is a weird, convoluted evolution of the Coffee Table Internet Adventure. Throughout the course of my uploading here, I have made 2 attempts to retell the story of my very first ghost hunt. At the time, Dahlia was the host of our system, so I don't want to take credit from her, but I do very much recall being a part of it and being there whether she was aware of me or not. And that experience was very much a defining moment in my life that really put me on a path toward a certain trajectory. However, I didn't like either version of that story. The first attempt came from a time very early in my YouTube career where I just kind of threw stuff together and I wanted to tell the story. It was very much one of those videos where I just have my phone, I'm like, hey guys, what's up? I want to tell you the story. And I hated it. I was like, man, I can do this better. I can do this better. So, thereabouts a year after that, I would come back and redo it, but I overdid it. Because at the time, I was really into Rob Dyke, now known as Rob Gavigan, who was really doing that spooky paranormal TV show host thing, and I really tried to emulate that, and I just kind of overdid it, and it was boring, and Technically it was good, but it was just, oh my god, it was pretentious. Eventually I would take that video down as well with the full intention of redoing it and trying to do it better, but now I have put way too much thought into it and I have all of these different expectations where that's not right, that's not right, that's not right, but what about this and never mind. And I just haven't gotten around to doing it again, even though I really, really, really want to. I'm just overthinking it to the point of making myself genuinely queasy thinking about it. The point I'm trying to get to, I could use some more coffee. The point I'm trying to get to is, at one point, when I first started off here, I at least had an idea to do exactly and specifically this. What I'm talking about here. Wanting to talk about some of the things from my past that are still relevant, but at some point I said this is what I want to do and this is how I want to make my living. So I started looking into the future and the present, taking what was in the present and trying to see how I could keep moving toward the future, but the past got left behind. And I think that's what teenage me was saying when I said, when did you trade passion for complacency? I think the overall point I'm trying to get at here is somewhere along the way I became a tryhard. You know, one of those goons that just overtries and overthinks everything and thinks that this big shiny thing is what we need to get to, but I actually haven't put in the kind of work that I think I have to be able to get to that point, and then I eventually just give up. Well, I've been doing this for off and on 4 years now, almost 5. I'm not giving up, even if I go nowhere. But I am a tryhard, and I think that's what teenage me was trying to tell me. Quit trying so goddamn hard because you're sucking all of the fucking fun out of it. Now, I have said before, I might have said it in this video, but definitely in the I'm leaving TikTok video, where I'm talking about who I was when I was a teenager and when I was in more of my adolescence. I was rude, crude, brash, off the walls, off the rails, easy to get in somebody's face, but I also managed to overlook the more pleasant qualities of who I was then. I was also a gender-confused female alter who really got a lot of gender euphoria doing the stuff that boys do. And even to the point where when Dahlia, when she was the host, believed I was male, I did not correct her. But at the same time, aside from being this dark, edgy, Lord Arrogance of pretentiousness, I was also just that quiet person who was sitting there watching anime, munching on potato chips and popcorn, eating freezer burritos, and playing stupid video games that nobody else cared about. At one point, I wanted nothing more than to be a hot emo girl, getting to enjoy the things that I loved. And those things that I loved were music, the culture around the music that I loved, anime, and just being a nerd. I also wanted nothing more than to talk about and nerd out and geek out about ghosts and paranormal experiences and supernatural phenomenon. And in my process, where I have been moving forward and thinking about the future, these are the things that got left behind. These are the things that I haven't been focusing on, and the things that I forgot about, and the seeds that I forgot to water and grow. And honestly, I think I'm just going to spend more time doing that because I think that's what's going to make me the happiest. Also, I'm still going to talk about witchy shit from time to time because that also makes me happy. Problem is thinking that that's the only thing that's going to bring me happiness and success. And honestly, I think I'm going to cut this off here because how many videos like this have I done where it's just going on and on and on and on and on and on forever? And hey, look, the unicorn, it's right there. Boop, boop, boop. Anyhow, I want to cut this off here because if I let myself, I can go on for days. So yeah, I want to talk about spooky shit and nerdy shit. That's the big summary of the entire thing. And I started off with having a conversation with my teenage self. Until next time, much love. Peace out, namaste, and goodbye.